Hello everybody, hope you're having a good day. This is Granny's GodPod number 81, the parable of the man with the two sons, from Luke 15:11-32. I was recently recommended to Timothy Keller's book, The Prodigal God, which showed me a completely different side to the parable of the prodigal son. In the past, I've had sympathy with the elder son through experiences in my childhood, and learned that sometimes life was more enjoyable when I got rid of my angst, and there was no great satisfaction in winning because of a perceived injustice. This podcast will be the first of a trilogy because there is so much material to share. The parable begins in Luke 15 verse 11. There was a man who had two sons. This parable is often known as the parable of the prodigal son, but there are two brothers. They each represent a different way to be alienated from God. There are two groups of people who had come to listen, the tax collectors and sinners, represented by the younger brother, and the Pharisees and the teachers of the law, represented by the older brother. To focus on the younger son is to miss out on the extended look at the soul of the elder brother and the climax of the powerful plea for him to change his heart. A plea intended for those dyed-in-the-wool Pharisees and teachers, the targets of the story, the superior, holier-than-thou religious people. While the parable condemns the destructive self-centeredness of the younger brother, at the same time we may miss the condemnation of the elder brother's moralistic life. Jesus is not on the side of either the irreligious or the religious, but he singles out what Keller calls religious moralism, a belief that good works define our relationship with God, as a deadly spiritual condition. In those days, when a father died, the oldest son received a double portion of what the other children inherited. In the parable, the oldest son would receive 2/3 and the younger son 1/3 of the estate. But to request the inheritance before death was deeply disrespectful. In effect, the younger son wants his father's things, but not his father. The father's response was surprising in a patriarchal society. Instead of telling his son, "On your bike," he divides his property. And to do this, he would no doubt have had to sell part of his land holdings, since most of the father's wealth would have been in real estate. The younger son then goes off to a far country and squanders everything, having disgraced his father and becoming dead to the community. Rabbis taught that an apology was insufficient, restitution was required. So the younger son devises a plan amongst the pigs to return home and offer to be an apprentice. He is spotted on his return home, and his father runs to him. A Middle Eastern patriarch did not run. Children, women, young men might, but not the dignified owner of a great estate. The father tells his servants to bring the best robe, no doubt the father's own robe, a sign of being restored to the family, without paying off any debt. The celebratory feast included the fattened calf, an expensive delicacy at a time when most meals did not include meat. In the father's house there was not only food to spare, but grace to spare. God's love and forgiveness can pardon and restore any and every kind of sin or wrongdoing. Jesus shows the father pouncing on his son in love, not only before he has a chance to clean up his life, but even before he can recite his repentance speech. This illustrates what Jesus says in Luke 15 verse 7. I say to you that likewise there will be more joy in heaven over one sinner who repents than over 99 just persons who need no repentance. Is the eldest son one who needs no repentance? He comes in from the field to discover the celebration and his brother's reinstatement into the family. Instead of being excited or pleased, his jealous reaction, angrily refusing to join the celebration, also disgraces his father by publicly objecting to his father's actions. The father comes out to the eldest son, a demeaning thing for him as host of a great feast. What upsets the oldest son? Is it the cost and injustice he feels of what is being lavished on his brother, which he has not earned, when he himself has worked without receiving similar appreciation, he thinks? In a culture where respect and deference to elders was all important, the eldest son speaks disrespectfully to his father and calls his brother "this son of yours." But the father acknowledges that despite the public insult, he still wants the elder brother to come to the feast. He is not going to disown either son. He is asking the elder son to swallow his pride. But the parable leaves us wondering, will he or won't he? The whole story of the prodigal son is turned on its head when we realise that the real audience for this story is the Pharisees. Jesus is pleading with his enemies to respond to his message. He is redefining sin, what it means to be lost, and what it means to be saved. Above all, it is about being saved through grace, not good works. God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. There is more, friends, so look out for part 2.